Well, the censorship complex I see had its beginnings around the 2015 time period, and I actually traced part of this is the concept of fake news in its modern form. That phrase was invented by a group called First Draft in the 2015 time period. And I called First Draft at the time because it's a nonprofit that had just started at the beginning of the election cycle, when Donald Trump was coming on the scene. And I asked them where they got their funding from because their charity forms, tax forms hadn't been filed yet. And they acknowledged it was from Google, which is a driver behind a lot of this. I think it's misinformation. They say it's fighting misinformation, but they're putting out their own. And Google at the time was owned by Alphabet, which at the time was run by Eric Schmidt, who was a big Hillary Clinton supporter. So therefore, it suddenly seemed to make sense that all of the fake news that First Draft was flagging was conservative fake news. And because I remember thinking at the time, before I knew the financial ties, why does this website that proclaims itself the arbiter of fake news and it offers itself as a resource to journalism colleges and journalists around the world who are referring to it, why is there never an example of any liberal media outlets that are putting out fake news? Because certainly there were those. And this all began to make sense. Fairly soon after First Draft came on the scene and introduced the concept of fake news in its modern context, Barack Obama gave a speech at Carnegie Mellon. He was president at the time, and said something like, we have to figure out a way in this wild, wild West media environment to curate the news and to start sorting through it for people. That concept is so familiar to us today, but it was foreign at the time. And when I heard him say that, I was just taken aback as a journalist that someone would be curating news, that the government would be talking about figuring out what news we should and shouldn't see. And I realized since the president was making this speech, it wasn't an offhanded comment. This was something that had been planned and distributed and put out there. From that moment on, you can see the headlines in the New York Times and other papers and the networks picking it up. Fake news this, fake news that. And it was typically conservative examples, never liberal examples. And then pretty soon, Donald Trump took up the term, a master at marketing. He flipped the phrase into something that benefited him. He started calling the mainstream news media fake news, and I call it a hostile takeover of the term. Now most people attribute that phrase to Donald Trump, but it was not invented by Donald Trump in a modern context. This was a liberal invention during a campaign at the beginning of an election cycle, intended, I believe the evidence shows, to use on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign and Democrats in order to censor news. This was the beginning of the curation, the media literacy efforts, these well-funded billionaire foundations that are behind all these efforts to start these resources that we're all supposed to refer to find out what's real. They're actually doing the opposite. I like to say, when a producer said this to me years ago, when a nonprofit or a group is named one thing, it frequently does the opposite of what it says. So when you hear, not in every case, but I would say in most cases, when you hear there's a media literacy group or a fact-checking group, you can suspect it's doing the opposite. It's trying to shape news, keep you from seeing certain facts, and so on.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.